The story begins when a man finds himself next to a lake in the middle of nowhere and wonders how he got there. And then he suddenly remembers that he was driving on his scooter when a vending machine ahead of him loose and it ends up smashing into him. He is surprised that he was able to survive that accident, but he soon finds out that he is unable to move, and suddenly he hears his voice welcoming costumers in order to use him. And then he realizes that he is reincarnated as a vending machine. We learn from him that he loves vending machines and is really happy that he got to be one after death. He admires his products and the way they are priced, also the way he is designed. But soon he realizes that being reincarnated as a vending machine might be a problem, and he wonders if this was thanks to God that he was able to be alive and to be turned to the thing he loved. He just accepts things as they are and finds out that the thing he says are only insert the coin and thanks for buying. When he tries to find out if he can do more in his new body, he sees some writing and realizes that they are the products that he is selling: mineral water and corn soup. He hears a voice telling him that he is able to change the things that he is selling by spending points. Then he sees that he has 1,000 points and realizes money is converted to points, and by spending points, he figures out that he can add more products and keep different items at different temperatures, and being able to warm up frozen food and add hot water to ramen. While learning more about himself, he finds out that his body doesn't run on electricity for power, but he consumes his points to power himself. He uses 1 point for an hour and 24 points a day. He needs to earn 2,400 yen a day to survive. He has 990, so he would be able to survive for a month. He is thinking to not waste any points until his income is steady. He realizes he is in middle of nowhere, and after a day he gets panicked about no one showing up and the fact he is losing points. At that moment a frog shows up and starts approaching him. He gets startled by his voice and starts attacking him. After each swing, he loses 3 points on his durability, and he learns if durability reaches 0, he will break and become unusable. But he learns that the durability can be restored by spending points, so he thinks he can wait for the frog to get bored. The frog suddenly calls his friends, and after seeing that one of the frogs has an axe, he starts to panic. He tries to find a function to save him. He tries but didn't find anything. The frogs keep on beating him up. His durability starts to get even lower. He suddenly notices that he can get a blessing from God and can choose different abilities. He sees magic barrier and uses it immediately. The frogs gets pushed away, and after getting happy from the power he used, his points start decreasing as the frogs keep attacking him. They eventually get bored, and he starts on recovering his durability. He finds out that he is down on his last 311 points and hopes for people to show up and buy his items. Several days later he wished he had sold something, and then suddenly a girl show up. She looks alerted, but then she falls down and starts saying how hungry and tired she is, and starts saying that she was not cut out to be a hunter. Looks like she was hunting for frogs. And she starts wishing for food. Then she notices the vending machine. She is unfamiliar with what it can do. Then she hears his voice welcoming her and telling her to answer to coin. The girl wonders if he will accept the copper coin, but it gets unacceptable, and he learns he needs to acquire the coin conversion function to accept it. He quickly learned the skill for 100 point, and then immediately the prices change. She then realizes that it needs 1 silver coin to get something she thinks that is expensive, but she was willing to sacrifice for her belly. He is excited about his first sale, and then she picks to drink corn soup. She tastes the soup and says that there isn't anything better than this in the world. He is overwhelmed to bring her such joy. She wonders what other items he has and ends up buying more. He ended up making 6 silver coins, which is converted to 60 points. After filling up her belly, she ends up falling asleep beside him, and he protects her with his barrier and starts saying how vulnerable costumer she is to him. When the girl wakes up, she thanks him for the food. She gets startled when he speaks. She asks if he is able to speak, and then mentions someone who invents tools with magical power into them, and she wonders if he can say certain lines. She notices he can understand. She introduces herself, and after that they come up with the idea of saying yes to hello and no to thanks. After learning more from each other, she named him Bexo, and she asks him if he is lonely being all alone, and he says yes. She suggests him to come with her to meet her friend, and he accepts. She starts lifting him up. He is surprised by her power. He's happy that he got away from that place. Turns out Lamis has the blessing called Blessing of Might, and that explains her incredible strength. After walking for a while, she takes a quick break and says she is hungry and is thinking on buying the corn soup again. He thinks corn soup isn't that filling, and he starts to change his products. She buys a bag of chips, and after liking it so much, she ends up buying a couple more. Because of her buy, he ends up recovering up to 320 points. He changes the mineral water price he wishes to give it for less, but his life depends on it. They made it back to the village and the guards wonder what she has brought back. She explains to them that she brought a magical tool that can grant you items if you put money in it. She found it by the lake. Llamas asks the guards if it's okay to keep it, and the guards mention that whoever finds something lying around in Stratum gets right of ownership. She is glad about that. The guards ask if they can buy something from him, and the girl says it okay. The guards are surprised by his talking, and they think that he can be sold for a high price, but Llamas says she is taking him to see her friend. The guards try buying from him, and they are instantly impressed by his food, and they end up buying every item he has. They ask Llamas if she could bring him around once in a while. Boxo thinks his business is looking up and is happy. They get inside the village, and Lammies sees a little girl getting bullied. She beats one of the thugs and struggles to hit the others despite her powerful strength. They give up and escape. She checks on the little girl if she is okay. Lammies goes to the inn, and her friend Manemi rushes to her, glad she is alive and not harmed. Lammies was left behind by some other hunters, but Manami tells her that she helped to spread bad rumors about them. She then looks to Boxo and asks if she has brought another weird thing, but Lammies claims that Boxo is very useful and had helped her. Lammies sets him up outside. Manemi knows that she wants to show Boxo to her friend, but Manemi wonder how will she pay for the transfer circle, because that thing is needed to leave, but it looks like Lammies has spent all her money on his items. Munami tells Lammies to work on her inn, and she hopes that Boxo will help to attract costumers. The people start to get attracted to Boxo, his delicious food, and his items sold like crazy. Lammies takes him to the guards, but they eventually get bored from his items. He thinks it's time to change. He sees that he has sold 400 products and gained 3,000 points. He suddenly starts to glow, and the guards are happy to see that he has put new items. It costs 3 silver coins, but the guard is excited and buys it, and then he wonders how to open it. Luckily, there are instructions on the can they tried, and the guards loved it so much and started buying more. Several days later, words started to spread about his canned Odin, and caused a boom in the village. During the day, he makes canned Odin unavailable, so he doesn't compete with Inn's restaurant. The little girl that Lammies saved approaches him and gets startled by his voice, and so she throws a rock at him and runs away. When the evening comes, Lammies carries him at the gate to the guards. As they walk, she talks to him if he is having fun and wishes to meet her friend so she could help him. Lammies is glad to have found him, and he thinks that being reincarnated as a vending machine was not a bad thing after all. The next day, Boxo gets scared when he gets confronted by a bear, but turns out he is the director of the Hunter Association. He is impressed seeing Boxo talk, but he is actually there to get help from them to attack a frog fiend base. Lammies is saying that Boxo can't fight. Director knows that, and only wants from him to provide food and drinks for the hunters, and he promises to them that they will be well guarded. Llamas isn't too sure, but Boxo thinks about the threat that frogs can cause to the village and to Lammies, so he accepts to take the job. After 3 days, they take off, and we learn that it seems to be the breeding season of the frogs, and there will be more frogs also. According to the director, they are protecting the transfer circle in their village because it's the key to getting in and out of the dungeon. Beside the hunters from the village, there are other hunters from different villages who are excited to make money. Lana sets Boxo down and get approached by the captain of the hunters and tells her to not be tense because they will protect them. He is interested in Boxo, and Llamas explains how to use him. He picks lemon tea and is impressed by the way the bottles are designed. The man tries it and finds it delicious and asks how he is refilled. She tells him that he just refills himself. He looks interested in Boxo, and he asks his vice captain Felmina if she could come and take a look to Boxo because she knows a lot about magic. She looks at Boxo and says that she doesn't feel any magic from him and says that he is just a block of iron. Kelroy mentions how he is able to refill himself, thinking the items come from another dimension. Felmina suggests that there are blessings that do things besides produce magical power, and she thinks that a block of iron can't use blessings, but Boxo is actually able to use blessings. Kelroy thinks that's a mystery, and he thanks Boxo for helping them. The director says that they are camping for the night, and Boxo thinks that this is his chance to make some costumers. The hunters get in line to buy from him, and they are so happy about his delicious food. Because the nights and mornings have started to get cold, he added noodles. Boxo is surprised by the guard girl because she eats so much compared to her size. Llamas gets to know her, and they introduce themselves to each other. After it gets dark, the director starts approaching them and tells that they are 3 hours away from the frog fiend and wants Llamas to decide either to come with them to the battlefield or to stay here. Llamas says that she doesn't have a problem going because she is a hunter, but she is worried about dragging Boxo. She asks Boxo, he says that he is okay to come, so they agree to join the battle as well. The next day they reach the frog base, but there is a thick mist and they are walking through mud. The director says to attack, and the hunters start on beating the frogs. Kelroy says to the hunters that they will be paid extra for the number they put down, and they get fired up. Lammy's wants to do her best, but Boxo is worried about the fact that she can't land hits. And then all of a sudden a frog jumps at her, and she easily beats it. She is surprised she landed a hit, and it seems having Boxo on her back is giving her a better balance. Kelroy and other hunters keep on killing the monsters, and we see Felmina taking down 3 frogs at once. The frogs keeps on showing and they end up surrounded. Felmina tells Kelroy that there are too much frogs to handle, but Kelroy says that he is not going to give up. The frogs charge at them and Sui protects Llamas, but then suddenly a frog jumps after Sui and Llamas prepares to protect her, and then Boxo uses the barrier and protects her. The girls are confused about the barrier. Boxo is glad to have saved them, and he buys a new ability for 1000 points to widen his field of view. Llamas tells Boxo to watch her back, and Kelroy starts praising her about her destructive power and skills. Llamas blush while hearing this, and Boxo keeps saying to her about the enemies showing, but she is too distracted, so he ends up using his barrier again to blow them away. Kelroy is surprised by the barrier, and Llama says that the barrier is thanks to Boxo. Kelroy is even more interested now in Boxo, and he thinks he is dangerous. After they kill all the frogs, Kelroy tells the hunters to cut their tongues in order to give them to the association and get paid. Felmina asks him to help, saying they are gross, but Kelroy claims that he become the captain in order to not deal with that. His team calls him a tyrant. Boxo is surprised about how comfortable they are with each other. They wonder what should do next, and Kelroy suggests to help the front line. Femina lets him know that they are there to guard Lamis and Boxo. Kelroy mentions that they will be able to make money and even earn bonuses. Felmina tells them they will only if Lamis consents. Kelroy begs Llamas to go. She also wants to help the hunters in the front line and she accepts. They take out a bunch of frogs and Llama sees that there are a lot of injured people. Boxo also wants to help, and he provides some drinks for the injured for free. Lamis thank Boxo for his help. The director thanks Lamis and the hunters organization, and he notes that there were twice as many frogs expected, and he thinks that the king frog has arisen. Boxo imagines how strong it could be. The director asks for Kelroy's help to beat it, and tells Lamis to stay there and provide food and treat the injured hunters. Later that night, Lamis gets called by the hunters for assistance, and then a shady man starts approaching Boxo. Boxo realizes he is there to steal his money, and he gives him a free drink, and when he tries to grab it, he burns the man's hand with a hot soup. He gets mad at him and tries to use a knife. At that moment, Lamis grabs his hand and asks what he was planning to do to Boxo, and then beats him up. The man gets restrained, and there is a disturbance in the distance, and then suddenly the king of frogs appear. The hunters are wondering what is he doing there, and they all start to panic. Llamas loads Boxo to the wagon, but the pigs are too afraid to move. Llamas feels bad about the pigs and lets them go. The hunters wonder what she is doing, and she ends up pulling the wagon with her strength. Boxo is thinking for a way to help them and slow the king frog, and he comes up with an idea of using cola. Llamas thinks he has a plan, and they all grab the colas. He buys the form change and changes his form to a mento machine, and Lamis wonders what to do. He struggles to make them understand because he can't talk probably, and he only says to insert the coin. She doesn't understand him, and as the frog approaches, the hunter thinks he is broken, but Lamis can tell that Boxo is trying his best. As the frog starts getting closer, the thief wakes up and starts making a fuss. A hunter stuffs his mouth with Mentos, and as he chokes, they give him to drink Coke, which causes a reaction. Lamis understands Boxo's plan now and explains it to other hunters, and they uses Coke and Mentos to blast it to the frog eyes. The director came with the hunters in time, and they manages to take the king frog down. They all celebrate, and the director apologized to Lamis for putting her in danger and thanks Boxo. The director says the mission is complete as they head back to the village.